Miami Hurricanes fan.
Fiesta Bowl.
Mid-conversation on Mile High Hoops about college football. The Denver Nuggets, not one, two giant upset wins since we talked to you on Monday. AP, I've rewatched the clip. I've sent it to a bunch of people, but our clip from Monday's show where I go, and that's why the Denver Nuggets are going to win. I'm just kidding. But weird things do happen in the NBA. Man, did that turn out to be correct. Monday's game was a freaking movie. Last night's not as much just because it wasn't as shocking, but two awesome Nuggets games that I was locked in for from the jump.
You lose to Brooklyn, but you beat Philly and Boston. The NBA is a weird place, my friend. And look, credit where credit is due. I think, when you and I were talking about like what should the Nuggets strive for on this road trip, I believe I was right around that 3-4 win mark, close to 500, obviously an odd number of games, so you can't finish exactly 500. But they went 3-4 on the roadie, and two really exciting back-to-back victories. Zeke Naji, let's go. Boost that trade value, baby. Spencer Jones doing his thing. Jamal Murray, career high assists in 2 games over the course of this road trip. So you've got to love the fight for this Denver Nuggets team. And just for a reference, because I was thinking about Jokic is out. Maybe I get a good little price, looking at the Nuggets for the championship odds. They were 10-1 when Jokic went out. They're all the way down now to plus 750. I thought, if anything, the odds would go the other way and it go up and up and up. It's gone down and down and down because of how good this Denver Nuggets team, or how stable, rather, this team has been without Jokic.
Is that just because of the Nuggets, or is it also because Oklahoma City went to overtime with Utah last night on their home floor?
Hey, shout out Chris Finch, man. Shout out the Minnesota Timberwolves. Did you see that stat that their free throw attempts per game is way down the last couple of weeks as well?
I don't have it after last night's game, but going into last night's game, Shea was 32nd in the NBA since that Chris Finch game, and he was obviously first before in free throw attempts. So yeah, that has had a tangible impact on the way the Thunder have been officiated. And one can hope that, like the Nuggets in 23-24, one thing that does not get discussed enough about the fact that they fell apart was the NBA just changed the rules halfway through that season and made it way more physical and let way less foul calls go, right? They were just not calling anything. And the Timberwolves were one of the most physical teams. And that's one of the reasons why the Nuggets lost that series. One can hope that the Thunder will be officiated evenly on both sides of the ball, because that's one of the things that's been frustrating is the Thunder are very physical on one end and seemingly get every call on the other. But this is not a Thunder show. This is about the Denver Nuggets. And I guess we'll start with Monday's game. And by the way, you said 2 great wins. There's 3. They beat the Toronto Raptors as well.
At the start.
Who are a really good team too. So I've been just really impressed by this group. I talked about David Adelman early on Monday's show. Again, just got to sing his praises because he's found a way with the game plan and the strategy to make this all work. I thought his X's and O's in the draw in that Philadelphia game were particularly impressive, and he carried some of those strategies over into Wednesday's game against Boston, right? So that, but also the mentality of this team to even believe they have a shot in either of these games, I think has been really impressive. And doing it with and without Jamal Murray, there have been just so many different factors for this team, and they're finding a way to win with, I know a lot of these teams in the East don't have bigs. The West is full of bigs and the East isn't. The Toronto Raptors have Jakob Poeltl. That is a good big. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who the Denver Nuggets fought to the end, have 2 good bigs. The Philadelphia 76ers have an MVP at big. The Boston Celtics have a guy who had 20 rebounds last night at big, and the Nuggets are finding a way. And I'm just so impressed with this team's fight more than anything.
Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that these last 2 games against Philly and Boston, respectively, come after David Adelman essentially ripped into his team for their effort and their level of readiness to take on the Brooklyn Nets, a game that you and I both agreed was probably the most winnable game on this road trip. And what do they do from that moment on? They take care of business against Philly. I know their fans were crying on social media. And they take care of business against a respectable Boston Celtics team who, without Jason Tatum, I know Jaylen Brown wasn't great last night, but they've been quite a bit of a surprise this season with just how good they've looked. And just tip the cap, man. I mean, there's a reason why, and I understand it was ugly there for a minute with all the injuries, but there's a reason why you and I went into this season, giving them an A grade in the offseason. Finals or bust conversation. There's a reason why we said all of these things. It's not just because we're homers and Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. It's because Denver legitimately went out there this offseason and made some moves that made them better, moves that they had not made the previous 2 seasons after winning the NBA championship. And I think the last 2 wins against Philly and Boston, it shows you the depth of this team. It shows you the resiliency of this team and also the leadership that David Adelman has instilled in this team. I'm not so sure the Denver Nuggets under Michael Malone, and I'm a Michael Malone guy, go out there and win those games against Philly and Boston. So everything right now, you can't ask for much more. It's a 3-4 road trip, but that's about as good as you could want for this Denver Nuggets team sans Nikola Jokic.
I'm going to give you a crazy stat. The value over replacement leader in the NBA is obviously Nikola Jokic. It's basketball's version of WAR, wins above replacement player. So value over replacement player. Jokic is 1 at 5.1 on the season. So he's been valued at 5.1. I don't know if this is wins exactly. I haven't looked into VORP, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's 2 at 4.3. Then there's a drop to Tyrese Maxey at 3. Tied for 14th at 1.8 are these names: Victor Wembanyama, Jimmy Butler, James Harden, Alpi Sengun, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and Jamal Murray.
There it is.
Jamal Murray has been just as valuable to the Denver Nuggets this year, according to advanced stats, as Victor Wembanyama to the Spurs, Steph Curry to the Warriors, or Kevin Durant to the Rockets. That's how damn good Jamal Murray's been. And I know we're bouncing a little bit back and forth, but you look at last night's game, he comes off Sunday's game where he was just absolutely trapped to hell. He was blitzed. He couldn't get off the ball. That loss was not on Jamal in any sort of way. Sets a career high with 16 assists. Comes back on Wednesday against Boston, a team that fights their butts off and plays really good perimeter defense and is equipped to blitz and double Jamal. And he sets a career high with 17 assists. Jamal is finding new ways to hit new levels in his career. Like, he just has never been this player that he was last night. Like, this is a guy coming out of the draft that people said could never be a point guard. He was a shooting guard.
Right.
And then he was a combo guard. This is turned into, as Peyton Watson said last night after the game, he is one of the best point guards in the NBA. And there is no disputing it. Like, it is absolutely beautiful to watch Jamal transition into this. And at the exact same time, he's still that guy that's going to shoot 40, 50, 90 perhaps from the field, hit some of the biggest shots in the game. And he's been a pretty absolute dog, honestly, on defense, on the off-ball side of things, just fighting his way through contact and getting tips and deflections and all that type of stuff. So really just impressed with where Jamal Murray's been at. And he comes into the day yesterday, Anilo, on Wednesday tells Anscape, I want to be an MVP. I want to be an all-star. I want to be a scoring champ. It's the first time he's ever talked about individual awards. And we know Jamal's wanted these things. It's not shocking, but to hear him say he wants to be an MVP and a scoring champ, 2 things that really? You're going to be that guy? Last night he played like an MVP, particularly Nikola Jokic. He played like Nikola Jokic last night.
Yeah, it's incredible. And, we've had this conversation. I don't really know what has changed with Jamal. Like, he's always been a really good player, but for some reason he's kind of put it all together this season for every single game for the most part. Look, you're going to have bad games here and there, but Jamal this year is the best version of himself that he's ever been throughout the course of his career, for sure, in the regular season. I understand he has these heroic playoff Jamal moments in the postseason, but this is what Nuggets fans have been waiting for from Jamal Murray. And there's a lot of people, I believe, were like the leader of the Jamal Murray elite club, right? Like, a lot of Nuggets fans were down on him and like, trade Jamal and what are we doing with Jamal? Like, those were real conversations, the last handful of seasons, especially after they won the championship and even before they won the championship, right? And he's showing why he's worth every penny he is that he signed with that contract, right? And so it's an absolute credit to him. Again, I have no idea what changed. Maybe he woke up this season and was like, I'm just going to ball out even more. Maybe he had a good offseason of recuperation. Maybe he went and did like the Aaron Rodgers retreat and like locked himself in a dark room and found himself. Like, I don't know what happened with Jamal to get him to playing to this level. But to your point, yeah, man, MVP characteristics. Now, look, he's probably never going to win an MVP because he has a 3-time or a 4-time MVP playing alongside of him in Nikola Jokic, but he has now completely cemented himself. Not that he wasn't already, but nobody can now say that Jokic doesn't have his true Robin. And I don't mean that as a jab to him whatsoever, but it's like you look at Jordan with Pippen, right? You look at Kobe with Shaq and then Pau Gasol. Like that is what Jamal Murray has evolved into firmly for Nikola Jokic and this Nuggets team.
I wrote after game 3 of the NBA Finals, where they both had triple doubles, became the first players in NBA history to get a triple double at the same time in any game, let alone a playoff game or a finals game. That in Denver sports, we think about these great duos, whether it's, Walker and Helton or McKinnon and McCarr or Forsberg and Sakic or even Elway and Davis. And on that night, Jokic and Murray cemented themselves as that great duo. And I know Jamal hasn't been an all-star. And we all know the stat about Nikola Jokic having the most amount of awards basically without playing with an all-star. Jamal has been this guy. And I just thought from that night forward, that was the Jamal we were going to see more often, was someone that could be maybe not equal to Nikola Jokic, but 40% of his 60% and carrying the Nuggets to 100% effort, right? So the 39 games of the playoffs in the bubble, combined with the championship run, Jamal Murray scored 26 points a game, 7 assists, and had 5 rebounds. He shot 49% from the field and 42% from 3. This year, in 35 games, so just about the same amount of time, he is scoring 25 points per game, throwing 7.5 assists per game, getting 5 rebounds, shooting 48% from the field, and shooting 44% from 3. This is Bubble Jamal. This is Champion Murray, as New Balance was calling it. The exact Jamal Murray that everyone has seen in the playoffs and gone, oh, why can't that guy do that over the course of the regular season? He did it over 2 playoff runs, 40 games. He has done it now in the first half of this season, about 40 games. He is that guy. Like Jamal Murray, the guy we always knew inside was somewhere there, that was always cut down because of injuries. But when he's at his best, looks like this. This is Jamal Murray. Like, this is Jamal Murray. And people have always said, why can't he get more out of it or blah, blah, blah. I'm currently watching Jamal Murray carry the Denver Nuggets to wins. He did it against Toronto, his hometown. He did it last night in Boston against one of the best teams in the NBA so far this season. And now we're going to see him have to do it for another 2 weeks or so. And if he continues to do it, like I said, the night Nikola Jokic got down on this podcast, or went down on this podcast, it's only going to help his own all-star candidacy. And long-term, as long as his legs are still there come playoff time, it's only going to help the Denver Nuggets because they truly are going to have that Batman and Robin situation.
It's beautiful, is what it is. And, you and I, while the news regarding Nikola Jokic was relatively optimistic about, and it looks like it's going to be even more optimistic than we thought, looks like he might be back by the end of this month, according to Shams, which would be incredible for him. But they've really surprised me over this 7-game road trip. Like, I thought it was going to get a win. Like I said, we want them to go close to 500, but I would not have been surprised if they won 1 game, 2 games, right? And I understand they only won 3, so it's not like they're that far off, but they didn't look dead. Like, I was worried that the Nuggets were going to kind of just roll over and die without Nikola Jokic and just wait, for him to come back and save them and get back to business and kind of take this as like a pseudo, not vacation, but, a pause per se. And that was not the case. And look, these are professional athletes that get paid $1 gazillion, so they should try either way, right? But I've been really impressed with the resiliency that this Denver Nuggets team has shown, and really different guys stepping up. Zeke Naji, a guy that was borderline unplayable for a majority of his career, at least the last couple of seasons with the Denver Nuggets, making an impact. Peyton Watson continuing to assert himself as a legitimate role player, not just for the Nuggets, but in this league. He's going to get a bag, hopefully with the Denver Nuggets, probably not, but wherever he goes this offseason, he's going to be a welcomed addition. You get Christian Brown, you get Aaron Gordon back. Bruce Brown finally scores some points, right? So it's all coming. It's played out nicely for the Denver Nuggets, all things considered.
If you're evaluating the Denver Nuggets from another team's perspective, and you've had a grade on Zeke Naji for years now, and you've felt a certain way about the value of that contract, Has just the last week changed anything about how you view Zeke Naji?
I mean, how could it not? I didn't know he could play like this. And like, I don't mean that like as a bad thing towards Zeke, but like we just haven't seen it. Like when he's out there, when Jokic is out, like, playing and healthy, it has been the complete opposite. And so I don't know if this boosts his trade value. Like I'm not changing my perspective on Zeke Naji of like what he could do for this team. I'd like it for him to be a positive contributor, but like I got to see a little bit more than just this little road trip sample size, right? But I guess it's house money at this point with Zeke Naji. And very, you kind of just raise your eyebrow a little bit like, okay. Like now maybe we got something here. I'm not quite there yet, but for a guy that, for lack of better phrase, like a dead man walking in that building, just absorbing a roster spot and guaranteed dollars up against the salary cap, he showed you that he could play.
Yeah, I was so impressed with him, and I talked about it a little bit on the rundown and a couple of our other shows of the week, but he's literally looked like Evan Mobley light over the last week, like where he is a switchable power forward that can sometimes play the 5, gets out and plays the perimeter. Like he legitimately at times looks like the Nuggets' second best perimeter defender behind Spencer Jones. And that's including Peyton Watson and Christian Brown and Aaron Gordon. Like I'm not saying he's consistently that. Those guys are consistently that. But at times, Zeke does look like that. And he was getting stops against, Tyrese Maxey earlier this week. He was getting stops against Jaylen Brown in the Celtics game. And the activity he's brought, I think, has been really impressive, especially for a guy who's basically been reduced to the shadow realm. Like his career was over and he's just sitting on the bench as a cheerleader. Like that's what he's been doing. So for him to come out and play like his butt's on fire has been impressive in itself. And then on top of it, to have a game where he hit 4 threes. Anilo, do you know the last time a Denver Nuggets backup center had scored 21 points in a game before Monday night?
I don't think it was Valanciunas. I mean, we must have to go back to, it was like Plumlee, Nurkic.
Keep going.
More. I don't know.
Jokic.
Oh, well.
Jokic was the last backup Nugget center to score 21 points.
I forget that he was a backup. I should know that. My first year covering them, he was third string. But it's just like I can't even consider him a backup, despite that's where he started.
So since Jokic became a starter, the Denver Nuggets had never had a backup center score 21 points in a game, post or regular season. And Zeke Naji obviously not spelling Jokic in that game, but spelling Holmes, and obviously gets more time because he won the minutes and then ends up playing overtime. So there's some stipulations to it, but he still did it. Like he did it. And that's the thing is like the Nuggets haven't had a lot of scoring or production from their centers besides Nikola Jokic over the stretch, which is why Jonas Valanciunas was so valuable. But to now all of a sudden have this other element of Zeke Naji, who is doing this not even at his preferred position of the 5. And I keep saying he's doing this as a center and blah, blah, blah. And he is. The Denver Nuggets are winning games without a center on their roster. De'Ron Holmes is a power forward at this point in his career. He hasn't bulked up enough. Zeke Naji is a power forward. Like, they're doing this without a center, and I think it's going to get a little bit tougher when they come home and play some Western Conference teams because they have more centers. That being said, they're still able to accomplish it, and I think the defense they're playing right now, led a lot by Bruce Brown and Peyton Watson's trapping and aggressiveness. I think this is something that will translate over to when Nikola Jokic comes back. And that's one of the positives I've taken from this run is that's something they can do when Jokic is on the floor, is play way more aggressive and physical on defense. And it's something David Adelman had been talking about since the first media availability of the season.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's well said. And you would think that this only builds momentum for them as they continue to get closer and closer to the Jokic, Cam Johnson, and eventual Jonas Valanciunas return, right? And it's nice to see Aaron Gordon back. Looked pretty good in that Brooklyn game, right? Christian Brown, a little skittish out of the gate, but I think we both agree that he'll get it going. You and I were texting about it last night. I'm willing to give CB a little bit of grace just coming back from the injury. Longest amount of time I believe he's missed in his NBA career. So I will give him a little bit of grace there. And, you've also got the LinkedIn keyboard warrior, Spencer Jones, who's, making it happen as a two-way player. And so, again, can't say enough good things about the fight that this Denver Nuggets team has shown. And it's still, the term that we've used all season long is buoying your way to wins. That's what it's all about for this Nuggets team right now. Just figure out a way to win any means necessary. And once you're back to full strength, that's when it's pedal to the metal and giddy up time for this Nuggets squad.
Yeah, and there is a little bit of concern, and I wrote it in my headline because it really would be very bad if this is true. But Spencer Jones did leave that game last night with a foot injury, And I was just hoping, because he was listed on the injury report as sick and they said he was really sick, that he just was not feeling it out there. And, maybe he did bang up his foot a little bit and left the game, but maybe he was just sick, because the Nuggets cannot afford to lose.
No.
I didn't think I'd be saying that. And Jamal Murray, I don't know if you watched his media availability last night.
I did not. I was eating ice cream with my girlfriend.
He basically goes, he was asked to recap the road trip and goes like, yeah, well, we've lost one player every single game to injury. Our buses have been delayed nonstop. We keep missing our flights. And, I think it's a success. Like, he was the walking, oh, everything's on fire, this is fine meme. Like, and like Jamal, like that again speaks to where Jamal's at with his calm, cool, and collectedness. I talked about this a little bit on one of our shows recently with Michael Porter Jr.'s success and Luka Doncic and Jokic being like the only top scorers in the league. This stat's a little slanted because Peyton Watson's only started 25 games. So this includes guys who've been playing and starting all games throughout the course of the season. So there are 7 players in the NBA this season averaging 15 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 40% or better shooting from 3. Very simple. 15, 5, and 40. Jokic, Durant, Edwards, Porter Jr., Knipple, Keyshawn George for the Jazz, and Peyton Watson as a starter. Peyton Watson as a starter this year has been 16 points per game, 5 rebounds, 1.5 assists. He has been fantastic. His shooting is been on fire, 41% from 3, 41.8% actually from 3, so 42%, and 53% from the field. Last night, he banged in 6 threes, a career high, knocking in his 6th three, his career high, on Jamal Murray's career high 17th assist. I loved that because those guys have a pretty good relationship. We continue to have this conversation. It continues to evolve because Peyton continues to impress. But we're at the point with Peyton where his run as a starter here, 15, 5, and 40% shooting, is essentially the dream from Christian Braun. Like, we're now past the point of, oh, is it Peyton or Christian? To Peyton's playing like the best version of Christian Braun in a very similar role. And I've always thought that Peyton's best position in the NBA would be shooting guard. And we're seeing some ball skills. I don't think enough particularly to like be a long-term shooting guard option for the Nuggets. But man, I think some people are getting nervous over there at Ball Arena about the decision that they made a couple months ago.
They shouldn't be nervous about it, though, because I think Christian Braun deserved to get paid. You and I have talked about it. I think Christian is the ultimate Jokic complementary player with just his skill set. But it would be foolish of them, and I understand second apron and salary cap and all. Peyton Watson is a legitimate member of this core. And that's a guy that Calvin Booth hung his hat on, for all the ugly that happened under Calvin Booth's tenure. And I know they won a championship, but it was Conley's roster. Like, that is the draft pick I think that Booth was most believing in to excel and become a real dynamic player in the NBA. How could you possibly sell it to your fan base that you can't afford to keep Peyton Watson around? And I understand second apron this, second apron that, whatever it might be. Peyton Watson needs to be a long-term member of this organization. He's earned it. He's developed. You and I have been around the guy. He's a great locker room guy. Not a diva, like none of that stuff. And there's really not a lot of players in that locker room that are,
Just look at the clip of him talking to Nikola Jokic Monday night.
Yeah.
That tells you everything you need to know.
Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves because they win a championship this year. Maybe it's a little bit easier. But there's no reason why Peyton Watson should not continue to be a Denver Nugget for the foreseeable future. I'll leave it at that.
The situation with Bruce Brown in 23 was the Nuggets could offer him a certain amount of money and they couldn't offer him any more. And other teams had the ability to offer him more. That is not the situation with Peyton Watson. The Nuggets can offer Peyton Watson as much as they basically want. The problem is they are going to have to pay more tax dollars, which does not impact me or you, or the Nuggets on the floor. It impacts Stan Kroenke's wallet. And I think it sends a very bad message to the rest of your young players, to which you have many, some of whom are struggling right now, like Julian Strother, some of which are thriving right now, like Jalen Pickett. I think it sends a really bad message to let a guy like Peyton Watson walk after doing everything that he's been asked to do and getting better every single game and every single year. So I would hate to see that guy walk out the door for that reason, let alone the fact that I think the Denver Nuggets very much need his athleticism and his defense, and he slides in perfectly to be a backup 4 for when Aaron Gordon is hurt, a backup 3 for when maybe Cam Johnson walks away. I don't know what the situation is going to be there long term because his contract's up after next year. Back up to Christian Brown as well. He plays 2 through 4 in the NBA, and he's a switchable defender who can hit his shots. Very few of those guys in the league, and we were clamoring for the Nuggets to get 3-and-D guys for much of the Jokic era. They have one right here. Don't let him walk.
Would you rather have Cam Johnson or Peyton Watson?
Can I have a month to answer the question?
Yes, you can. But like that's you mentioned, right? Because he's going to be a free agent after this season. I know you gave him a first-round pick for him as well. But like,
not Cam's a free agent after next season.
Excuse me. Yeah. But point being, like, you have some flexibility there. And here's the other thing: you bring up Aaron Gordon. I love Aaron Gordon. We all love Aaron Gordon, right? But you and I, we've talked about how he is probably going to miss 20, 25 games a year now moving forward, just with at the stage that he's at in his career and the level of explosiveness that you need. So I understand that contract, I think just kicked in this season, if not next season. So Aaron Gordon's on the books for a long, long time. I just don't understand how with this championship window and with Nikola Jokic, how you cannot just push your chips into the center of the table and reward Peyton Watson. And again, this is mid-season conversation. Let's see how he finishes the year and let's see where Denver ends up. But to your point, he's done everything the right way. And it would be a shame if Denver simply let him go because of financial reasons.
The biggest bugaboo with Peyton Watson that I think held him back for some time wasn't the three-point shooting, wasn't the defense, wasn't the athleticism. It was actually the finishing. If you look at Peyton Watson's finishing numbers this year, last year at the rim, he was shot 70% at the rim, which is really bad. He's up to 74%, so improvement. Last year, within 10 feet, he was a 38% shooter. This year, it's 41%. He's making strides, and that's all we can ask for from a young player. It's not going to be perfect, but the fact that he's making strides, and by the way, he's doing this with more pressure on him.
Yes.
It's like, look at Jamal Murray the last couple of weeks. Like Jamal Murray the last couple of weeks, if you look at the stats, they're actually like a little bit better in totality because Jokic isn't playing, but the efficiency is way worse. Peyton Watson's become more efficient while being tasked with more. Like that is a very rare thing that happens in the NBA. Like everyone wants to talk about Porter and how good Porter's been this year for the Brooklyn Nets. His efficiency's down slightly, which is to be expected when you're shooting 8 more shots a game. But that just, again, speaks to how good Peyton Watson is. So that's something I'll be watching over this weekend when the Denver Nuggets take on the Atlanta Hawks tomorrow night. And they've got the Milwaukee Bucks again on Sunday. Two of the biggest movers and shakers in the NBA right now. The Atlanta Hawks just traded Trae Young last night, a giant deal in the NBA for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. I think Corey Kispert's really going to help that Hawks team shoot. He's a fantastic player. He's been buried in Washington. That's why you don't know who that is. Trae Young, I don't know if he's really going to play for Washington or he's just going to be a free agent after the year, what that situation is going to be. But basically, the dam starts to burst a little bit on these NBA moves because that was one of the biggest names on the market. So now you're going to start seeing a bunch of other moves. One of them potentially is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Is this the last time Giannis ever plays for the Bucks in Denver? I doubt it. I think he's probably going to stay with the Bucks at least through the end of the season, which I guess would still make this the last time Giannis plays in Denver as Buck.
Unless they meet in the finals, but that's probably not going to happen.
And that's one of the shames of this Jokic era to me is the fact that, to me, we should have had this great bird magic thing between Jokic and Giannis, and it just has never happened for a variety of reasons. So that kind of sucks. But I love Giannis. I really hope that he plays on a valuable team and continues to be good. I'm really excited to see him play on Sunday. I'll be watching that instead of the Patriots game because I'm a sicko. And Anilo, I think that we're really close to having an Anthony Davis trade here. I think we're close to some of these trades starting to occur, which again will maybe open up the situation for the Denver Nuggets, who have a looming decision with Spencer Jones and some other things they have to do business-wise. We'll be back on Monday. I doubt anything happens between now and Monday trade-wise with the Denver Nuggets, but We should see Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown, who we did not even mention on this podcast. Not really. We'll talk about them a little bit more as I see them up close and how they're returning. CB struggling a little bit right now. Aaron Gordon making a positive impact every time he's on the floor. And again, just shout out to the Philly Heist. That was one of my favorite games in Nuggets history. Jalen Pickett, Zeke Naji, Peyton Watson. Those guys deserve a lot of love. And the Denver Nuggets are still somehow in fourth place in the Western Conference. I think, Anilo, they're only a half game back a second, too, despite the fact that they're playing without Nikola Jokic. He's Anilo Piro. I'm Jake Shapiro. We'll talk to you later on the Mile High Hoops podcast.